All right, so this is what we do after the big Tinley snake party. We've got all of our displays, all of our boas, and we are in, take a look around, we are in our motel room at the Tinley Park Snake Party. So we basically take all of our tubs that I made and put them on a cart that I made a base for that goes on the cart that's the same width as 5 of these, so it all fits, and it all fits in the door perfectly. So we like to leave on Monday morning instead of leaving on Sunday, because we have a more pleasant drive during the daytime and leisurely jaunt to get home. And we get home in a decent hour and not at 1 in the morning. So I cover all this up, and then put heaters on the cages, on the displays. This is low wattage flex watt heat that I use on my Boaphile plastics cages. We just hang it over the side, tape it on the cardboard. Repeat 4 times, and then we're going to buzz this in fast forward motion, time-lapse photography, so you can see how I do this without sitting there watching agonizingly while I do the whole thing. So now, we'll speed it up. Alright, so I got all the heaters laid on there loosely. Now, I have a double thermostat with me, which we wire up ourselves. I went a lot better in rehearsal, believe me. This is kind of a mess. So we take this double thermostat here, just leave it right on the top. Look for an outlet. There's an outlet right there. And I take the 2 probes, make sure it's not going to get too hot overnight. Hang them right by a heater, tape them so they won't fall down. Now they're going to monitor the heat. I have the heat set on this to keep the snakes comfortable without cooking them. Take each of these cords, plug it into my power strip. I heat it because it's going to be 14, 15 hours before I leave, and the room is cold. And these are boa constrictors, and they need to be kept in the 80s, so this is a method I've done for years. Keeps them warm overnight. So they're ready for the trek home tomorrow in the car. Plug that in. Double check the thermostat, make sure the temp is set right. Perfect. There's that part of it. We've got a couple of snakes. Oh. Got a couple snakes I'm bringing back for a buddy. Set them right on top. And I have a couple of blankets that I throw in the top. It kind of helps hold the heat in just a little bit. This is fascinating, isn't it? Some people enjoy seeing all this crazy stuff, and I don't mind showing it off. It's kind of a unique way I do it. Heaters are under there. Snug as a bug in a rug. They're good for the night. Have fun. All right, boa wackos. Here I am. I'm in my baby room after the Tinley Park snake party. And I'm going to show you how I treat to make sure I'm not bringing all the people's mites home from the show. So I set all of my displays on a couple of tables. And none of these displays are touching my racks. So if there are any mites within there, I assume that there are some that dribbled on there from well-meaning people at the show. The mites cannot climb off onto the rack and escape their inevitable doom. So I put all these racks, my displays, on the tables, and then I've sprayed the entire floor, all of the concrete floor. Those are white specks from my bedding from inside the displays. I spray that all over the floor, all over underneath, so if any mites climb off and step down, they fall on the floor and they die. And I spray the floor everywhere, all the way going upstairs. So anywhere that I've been, the floor has been sprayed, because if I've been carrying displays, I might carry mites with me. So the floor going out of the room, and where I came in from outside, I spray all of that. I don't spray outside because it's getting cold, but I spray all the floor everywhere. So any mites that fall on the floor are dead. And then tomorrow, I wait overnight. I get home 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday after the show, and then I want to make sure that that I get the floor sprayed so that any mites that fall on the floor are going to die. So, and then tomorrow I'll show you how I prep the rest of it to be doubly sure that I don't get mites. Just to smell, I spray the floor with Permectin 2, which I use with the mixture that they recommend on the bottle. And that keeps any of the mice from surviving on the floor. And also, I see for months after this, if I get a wasp that lands on the floor, he dies. They go into convulsions and they die on the floor. I mean, I see crickets dead on the floor, you know, wild crickets. I don't have any insect crickets for feeding herps. But any insect that lands on the floor dies because it residually lasts for months, which to me is just astonishing. So I'll have some more little handy instructions tomorrow that I'll show you as I start unpacking these guys and putting them back in their homes. All right, so I'm in prep for putting my babies back in their drawers, back in their homes, after having sprayed the floor with Permectin spray using a pump sprayer. And I'm going to flip the camera around and see if that works smoothly here. Wow, I haven't done that before. So I've set up a little station here where I'm going to pre-treat each container that I'm putting the animals in to ensure or help ensure, or at least lessen the likelihood that I'm going to be bringing mites in. They're going to propagate and cause a problem with my collection. So here is my little pump sprayer that I've got set up with Permectin in it. And the first thing I do is I spray my hands. And how do I do that while I'm holding the camera? Well, I can't. So I spray it on my hands. So if I touch an animal and it has mites on it, they're not going to transfer from my hands, or it's going to be a lot less likely. I've got to do all of these animals, pick them up individually, prep their cages individually, put them back in the racks to ensure I don't get mites. So I'm going to do that in a minute. I'll show you how I spray the container. Now, while at the show, I had a friend of mine that wanted me to pick up a couple of boas for him. So I picked up his boas. They're in my snake room, and I'll show you how I treat them. And this I do this with every single new animal that comes in to the house as well. I never bring the box in, but I do treat the animals, and this is a one-time thing, so it's not, I don't think it's detrimental to do this. Same as I don't think spraying my hands is a problem, because it's twice a year, right? So it's not like I'm doing it every day. So I saturate the bag, which I did yesterday. I'm doing it again for the video. And I double check and make sure that the concrete around them is hit good with the permectin. Now, any mites that are in there are not going to live. And no mites that end up on the floor are going to survive. So that's how I prep them. And typically when I get something new in, if it's got some size to it, I spray the animal itself. If it's a baby, I never spray the babies, because I have done that in the past. And I ended up with babies that were constipated and didn't poop for like a month. I didn't lose any, but I figured that being constipated and not pooping for a month wasn't going to be comfortable for me. So I'm pretty sure it was pretty uncomfortable for them at least, and not something I wanted to repeat. So I never spray babies, but I do spray the containers. And we will do that in a moment. All right, so I have a tub here that's like a staging station, and I really soak the paper. This is where I set them temporarily, as I'm prepping their actual drawers that they're going to go and live in. Again, just to make sure that we don't have mites. So we'll grab an animal, and we'll show you how I do it from here. All right, so I go over here to my display case, slide open the drawer, pick up the animal. I'm doing this with my hand, which I have already sprayed. So if somebody has, you know, in a very unfriendly fashion or accidentally dropped mites on this Hypo Key West Motley Jungle, then they will not survive being on my hand. Then I come over here and I set them in the drawer, the wet drawer. So they're not going to transfer mites anywhere, because they're on a surface that the mites are going to die. So I go get the drawer that this animal lives in next. Whoops. Look at that camera work. All right, so I write down where each animal goes in the rack, you know, based on a reference to where they are in my display case. So this particular one is row 27, and this is compartment 1, which on here is a Hypo Key West Motley Jungle male, and everybody has their own system. There is no right or wrong way. So I found that I know the neighborhood where this animal goes. Everybody has their own way of doing it. And then I've labeled a drawer over there, 27/1, and that tells me the location where he goes, so he goes back home. Now I have his little drawer that he lives in, beside the one that's all wet, where he's been in waiting. And I take out the soiled paper, if the paper that was in there was soiled. And I take my little sprayer, and I just hit the paper. Not much, that's all that's necessary. And it's ready for him to go back. And I take him, put him back in the drawer, give him a fresh water bowl, bring him back to the rack. That's number 1. I'll do a couple more. All right. Now we're coming back over here. Row 27, compartment 2, which is a row 27, compartment 2, Sunglow female. It's a call Sunglow female. I didn't write that, but I know it. So here's the call Sunglow number 2. Take her over. Set her in the moist paper with my hands that have had permectin on them. Then I come over to her drawer, spritz the paper, and she's good to go. This doesn't hurt him. in any way. This is used, permectin is used widely on all kinds of farm animals, including hogs, directly on their skin to kill insects. It's also used around birds, and birds are very, very susceptible to chemicals in the air. So it's a very safe product used as directed. And I've been using it for years, probably 12, 13 years ago. When I'd gotten mites, I was terrified. I didn't want to use pest strip because pest strip will stop all egg follicular development in your breeding females. And it was right at the beginning of breeding season, of course. I didn't want to ruin my breeding season, so I sought a different way to control the mites, and permectin 2 has been my method that I've used for killing mites and or for preventing them ever since. So this female's ready, and she's ready to go back in the rack, and we'll do another one. Then here we go. Compartment number 3 in row 27. It's a jungle sunglow. Female. Yeah, it's really neat, isn't it? Looks like a little kid did it. That's the same way I used to turn in homework all the time. It's bad when you laugh at your own jokes, isn't it? Well, get used to it. 'Cause I love my own jokes, even if nobody else does. So here she is. Bring her over. Set her in the moist bin. Take the sprayer. In this case, the paper was clean. A little spot of blood from a mouse. But I don't have to replace it. It's a little crinkly, but that's fine. Spritz. Spritz. Any mite, if there is a mite, microscopic, you can't see it. Single mite walking on this animal from the show. When it climbs off and hits the paper, it's dead meat. And I believe that just the residual odor being in such close proximity to the permectin 2 is enough to shorten the lifespan of that mite. In fact, probably to end the lifespan of the mite. It's made from something they extract from a flower that comes from Africa, which is no good for insects and does not harm mammals or reptiles used in the recommended quantities that's on the bottle. Oops, I left something out. Then take her out, set her in the drawer, set in the clean water. I put it on the little blood spots so she won't know that it's there. She won't know I cut a corner and did not change that paper for one tiny little blood speck. That doesn't hurt anything. Now I'll take her over to the rack. So this is my morning, and what I do the morning after I come back from the Tinley Park show. Put everybody back, spritz their drawers with a little bit of permectin, and I put on quite a few miles doing this. Let's take a look. I already have 6,889 steps from my workout this morning, and I got to keep the ticker in shape, which is, I believe, about 3 miles. And believe it or not, the process for me returning all of these kids back to their drawers in their various locations, and I've got 4 more of these overflow that I've got to put back as well. I'll put on close to 3 miles just walking back and forth with everything. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'll repeat this again in 7 months in October after the Tinley Park October show in 2023. Hopefully we will see you there. I'm still here. Hopefully we will see you there. Bye-bye.